Welcome to the Power of Connection series. I'm your host, Olivia Jewell, founder of the 21-Day Family Connections Experiment, an experiment started during the height of the 2020 pandemic, and it was created to explore the psychological benefits of connecting more with family past and present. As part of that, we've had a lot of incredible experiences learning more about connection, and we wanted to bring this series to you to share some of what we've learned. So, as we kick off the Power of Connection series, join us as we hear from regular people like me and you who have had a little bit of personal experience with this. So, Mia, Coralie, Michael, Lisa, and Sarah are going to share with us some of the power and strength and healing that they have personally experienced through connection.
I got into family history work because of the healing that I experienced as I learned more about my ancestors. So, a few years back, I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. And, when you struggle with mental illness, it is debilitating and it can really, it rocked my world. It changed everything about me. And I was going to therapy, I was doing things to take care of myself, like exercising, eating well. But what really helped me, along with those things, what really helped me to move forward with my life and also just develop more confidence in myself and find a lot more joy in my journey was participating in family history work. The more I learned about my ancestors, the more I saw that I really was not alone in my journey and that there have been many that have come before me that have had similar journeys and similar experiences. So I really am not alone. And I discovered that a lot, even more so now, especially now that I'm a genealogist, and I feel more hope and more joy and definitely more healing in my life when I learn more about the resiliency, the power, the struggles, the trials, the tribulations of my ancestors. And I see through their lives and through my own that I can do anything, that anything is possible, and that no matter how broken or distraught my mind and my heart may be, or even my body, that everything's going to be okay, that I will make it in the end, and I really am not alone.
I always knew the name of my birth father, but I was never really interested in finding him. I didn't want to upset his family, and I had a really good stepfather, and I never felt a lack. But when DNA started being a thing, my family kept telling me, Mom, you need to get your medical history. And I thought about it for a while and decided, I guess it would be okay. I had no idea that I would get a hit or two on the DNA results for a missing relative, someone I never knew. And with the help of my granddaughter, I was able to follow up on a message that was put on Ancestry from somebody named Connie. And she knew nothing about her background, only that she and I, for some reason, were considered to have very compatible DNA. So with the help of my granddaughter, I was able to get in contact. It turns out that I connected with her on one of the worst days of her life. And while it was wonderful for me to talk to her, it was more wonderful for her to talk to me. And we had an instant bond. Now, we were able to meet after a few months, and we don't look a thing alike, but we are very alike. We have the same personality, we have the same looks. As my granddaughter said, we even chose the same color car. Connie has been a delight, a joy. I had no idea that I needed to fill this gap in my background. I had no idea how delightful and wonderful it would be to find a sister. She's only 18 months younger than I am. And so we're from the same generation and we just get along great. We email, We talk all the time and never run out of things to say. And the most delightful part is that not only do I get Connie, but I get her family. And I absolutely adore her sweet family. And she has a granddaughter who could be my clone. So it's been a wonderful experience for me. It's filled a hole I didn't know I had. And it has brought both Connie and I great joy. And it was not expected, but wonderful to have happen.
About a year ago, in the middle of taking around 30 credits at school, I had the inspiration to do a New Year's resolution unlike anything I've done before. And that was simply to do family history every day. It was in the middle of doing a lot at school. I had an extracurricular, I had family duties and other community service opportunities as well going on. But I decided to try to do just a little bit every day. And about a year later, I can say that I haven't done it perfectly every day, but as I do it several times a week, I've noticed that making those family connections, doing a little bit of family tree cleanup or uploading a memory or remembering one of my ancestors or connecting with one of my living relatives has really helped me find strength to get through school. It's given me strength to keep going amidst the pandemic, to find joy with everything that I have going on in my life. It doesn't necessarily make sense that when our plates are already full to add something more. But in my case, I found that actually it's brought life in balance. And I've seen some neat things come of it. I started my Instagram a few months later after thinking about how that process of doing it every day has changed me. I wanted to share my journey and experiences and insight with others. And recently I've had thoughts of how I can incorporate family history into my future medical practice. Something I'm super excited about and I'm still figuring out, but it still has shaped the way that I view the world and the future that I hope to have and everything else. I know there's power in connecting. As we reach out to connect with our ancestors, our living relatives, and we really are connecting with ourselves, and that's really what's most important.
I've been asked to share a story about connecting with family members. And I'd like to just give you a little background because this story takes place over nearly 50 years. In 1972, I was able to go and visit my grandfather's family in Mexico City. He had immigrated to the United States in the early 1920s, raised his family in New Orleans, which is where I was born. And so my mom and my family and I went down to visit them. And it was really neat because I finally got to see the country that I believe that my personal story started in. I got to meet the family that I belonged to, and it was quite a large family, and I just had a really great time. And it stirred in me even more of a desire to seek out my story. And I've always been a believer in story and the power of storytelling and story sharing. So decades passed from that. 2016, I'm sitting in an event similar to Roots Tech, a smaller size, and I learned that Mexican records have been digitized and uploaded and are being indexed for use for anyone to go and research. It was like an answer to prayer. Decades I've been waiting to try to put together the pieces that I barely got any of during my growing up years, and just that one visit to meet all of the family in 1972. Even though I'd had shorter trips before, I never could find the family member that could fill in the details of our great grandparents and beyond. So I start to fill in this tree, and I'm starting to say, yes, I'm finally getting the story fulfilled. This is great. Things are starting to make sense, and I'm finding all these wonderful events in these people's lives. And then 4 years later after that, after I begin searching online, this year of the pandemic, when connection is not happening a lot, I post a picture of my mom's face on a beautiful picture of her on Facebook for her birthday in July. And my cousin from my 1972 trip named Norma hits like and says, hey, let's get together and chat. This is another miracle, right? all the years behind us that have gone past, the decades, my hunting and pecking and searching for our story. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to tell her. So we figure out WhatsApp, we get on a call, I see her mother, and they are both just thrilled to know that I have been looking for the records of that line of our family. And it turns out, on top of that, that Norma has been collecting a book in which she has been trying to fill in names and dates. And she's been working on this just as painstakingly as I have. And so we get together and we start talking about this, and there are tears of joy, and this bond becomes stronger between us in spite of the decades that we haven't seen each other, in spite of the language deficit. And it just brought so much joy to my life. And I just really think that stories connect us to each other, and they connect us to our past. They tell us who we are. What I'd like to leave with you, what I've learned from this experience, is that it is so important to keep records. We think someone might know information, but then they don't. And there's so much richness in our family stories. It's so important for us to know through our own stories who we are. And we'll find that as we do our family history. So keep a record of who you are for the next generation to find.
A few years ago, I was at this point in my life when I was feeling very depressed and anxious, and a lot of darkness, and just out of control of my own emotions and out of control of my own thoughts. And I didn't feel like myself. And it took me a while to realize that what I was feeling was not going to go away without help. So I sought help from a therapist, and I was quickly diagnosed with complex PTSD. And being diagnosed was very eye-opening and empowering in the way that it gave me this reason and this answer to why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And it brought a lot of hope that I wouldn't have to feel that way forever, and that there were things that could be done to get me out of this dark place that I was in. But with that hope came a lot of shame as well, and realizing all the damage that trauma had done to me left me feeling very broken and very alone. And I didn't feel like I had anybody that I could turn to who could really understand just what I had been through and the losses that I had faced. And I just felt like nobody understood where I was at. But I am a big learner, and so I kind of dove in headfirst in learning about shame and trauma and the effects that it can have on you, and how to become resilient to those things. I also, around the same time, just gained a lot of interest in learning about the stories of my family. And at first I thought the two were unrelated, just two separate things that I was enjoying at the time. But as I was researching my ancestors and their stories, it became pretty clear these patterns I was seeing. I read stories about loss and deep poverty and war and addiction and abuse, and I started piecing together the reality that I'm not the first person in my history, in my family, to have suffered from trauma, and that I have a whole generations before me that have felt the same brokenness and heartache and loss and loneliness that I was feeling then. And while my heart broke for them, and it still breaks for them because of the things that they had to face, I knew that I wasn't alone in what I was feeling. And as I've continued my own journey of healing, I have felt them with me many times. And I've also felt distinct impressions that my own knowledge and my own growth and my own healing is healing them as well. And it's been such a gift to not only know that I'm not alone, but to know that I can give back to them through my own healing and my own growth. And I know these trials and this trauma is not unique to my family. I think every family, whether it's this generation that we're living now or the previous generation or many generations back, there's trauma evident, and there's loss, and there's shame, and there's struggle. And I truly believe that as we learn about our ancestors and we hold space for their feelings and their losses and their trauma, that we can provide a place for them to process and heal from their own pain and grief. And that we can find support and connection through our own trials and bring about our own healing. And it, like I said, it's been such a gift to me, and I know that it's a gift that's available to anybody who needs it.